I was standing by the conference room door when Marcus walked in and smiled like he had just won something. My heart dropped because I knew that smile. It was the same smile he used when he copied my notes and called them his own. Today was worse. I stayed up all night finishing the report. I printed the charts, fixed the data, and added the final recommendations. I left my laptop open at my desk while I grabbed coffee. When I walked back, the team was already seated. Marcus stood at the front, clicking through slides that were mine. He used my charts. He used my words. He told the boss the exact plan I had written. The room clapped after his confident finish. I felt cold and sick. I opened my mouth to speak, but he smiled and said, "Thanks to everyone who helped, especially me for pulling it together." My throat closed. My hand shook as I grabbed my laptop. I fumbled and knocked a cup, spilling coffee over a page. People laughed like it was a joke. The boss patted Marcus on the shoulder. I felt betrayed, hurt and small. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell the truth. Instead, I left the conference because I could not stand there and watch the lie grow. I sat at my desk, my hands still buzzing from shock. I watched Marcus from the corner of my eye as he basked in praise. He was playing the part of the perfect teammate. My chest burned with anger and shame. I kept checking the report file on my laptop. The timestamps showed I had worked until 2 in the morning. The file name was my draft. Marcus had renamed it and emailed it as Final Proposal 10 minutes before the meeting. My email replies proved my edits. I felt everyone had seen my work except me. I thought of going to the boss and saying, "He stole my work." But what would that look like? Angry Mary bringing drama? I wanted proof, not emotion. I printed my original drafts and saved the emails into a folder. My coworker, Nina, who sat nearby, gave me a look that asked if I was okay. I swallowed and told her I was fine. Nina whispered, "Did he take your credit?" Her voice was low, but loaded with worry. I nodded. She said, "You should talk to him." I hesitated. How do you confront someone who smiles while lying? Nina tapped her lips. "Gather proof. Don't accuse. Show it." Her calm steadied me. But even with proof, the boss might still favor Marcus. I felt a knot of dread. Something had to change. That night I read my own words as if someone else had written them. I made an action plan. Collect evidence, find allies, record what happened. I started by saving all email threads and the earlier draft with my notes. I also opened the project chat and scrolled up to find where I had suggested the risky idea Marcus pitched. There it was, my exact sentence. I took screenshots. My hands trembled as if someone else's heartbeat lived in my fingertips. The next morning I asked Nina to review my evidence. She read in silence, flipping through printouts. "This is solid," she said. "You have timestamps, email chains, and the chat." My hope rose. Nina suggested a slow approach. Talk to Marcus first, give him a chance to admit it. She wanted to avoid drama. I agreed, but inside I felt like a coiled spring. I walked to the break room and found Marcus making coffee. He smiled and asked how I liked the presentation. I surprised him with calmness. "Marcus, can we talk about the report?" He raised an eyebrow. "Sure, what's up?" I said, "I worked late on it and noticed the final had my data." He shrugged. "I wrapped it up for the meeting." "You did a lot too." His tone was casual, like he had done me a favor. My breath caught. The first confrontation had slipped into false kindness. I left without accusing him, but anger carved a plan in my mind. Marcus's casual shrug felt like salt in an open wound. I walked back to my desk and pretended to work while my mind raced. I could play nice and let it go, or I could fight. I chose to fight smart. First, I asked the IT team to check last week's document edits. They were slow, but I used every minute to prepare a solid case. Nina offered to back me up in a meeting with HR if needed. Her quiet support mattered more than I expected. At lunch, I overheard Marcus telling someone how he saved the team by finalizing the report. He called it leadership. My stomach twisted. I felt like my work had been taken and folded into a mask he wore to get praise. I started noticing little things about him. How he always took credit in group chats, how he reworded ideas and claimed them, how he avoided one-on-one tasks where names mattered. He was clever, not just rude. The next day, HR called me in for a casual check about a different matter. I took it as a chance. I mentioned the presentation and how the content matched my drafts. HR smiled and noted it. It felt small, but it was a seed planted. Marcus apologized to me later in the hallway with fake concern. "Sorry if I stepped on your toes," he said. His voice sounded practiced. Inside, I felt my patience snapping like a twig. I would not let him keep stepping. I decided to gather more proof. That evening, I opened my laptop and compiled a file with all drafts, emails, and chat logs. I wrote a clear timeline of who wrote what and when. My fingers moved fast. I noted every revision, every comment, and each timestamp. As a final touch, I recorded a short voice memo explaining the sequence and my role. I labeled the folder Report Truth. I saved a copy on a thumb drive and gave another to Nina for safekeeping. On my way home, my phone buzzed. Marcus had sent a message. "Hey Mary, great job on the presentation. Let's grab coffee tomorrow and talk about the next steps." Part of me wanted to reply with the truth, and another part wanted to trap him. I did neither. I read the message aloud to myself, thinking of his grin in the conference room. At home I rehearsed how I would speak if I proved he lied. Revenge felt heavy. I wanted fairness, not humiliation. I pictured a scene where the boss recognized me. But fear whispered that Marcus might twist the truth. I slept with the thumb drive on my bedside table and dreamt of the conference room applause, now sour. Morning came with a plan forming. Expose him calmly, not loudly. The thought felt like a small victory. When I walked in the office Monday, I saw Marcus at his desk typing quickly. He looked like a man who had won a medal. I sat down and emailed the boss with my compiled file attached. My message was clear and neutral. "Hi, I wanted to share my drafts and timeline for last week's report for context." I kept my tone steady. I hit send and felt like I had pushed a stone into a river. The boss replied quickly, thanking me for the materials and asking for a meeting the next day. I tried not to smile, but the chill of worry stayed. What if the boss sided with Marcus? I spent the rest of the day trying to act normal. Nina stopped by my desk often with small cups of tea, saying, "You've got this." That brought warmth. Late afternoon, Marcus asked if I could help with a new project idea. I said no and lied that I had other deadlines. He raised a brow but moved on. That evening, the boss called me into his office. His face looked unreadable. My pulse leapt into my throat. He began by saying he had looked at the file. I braced for judgment. Then he leaned back and asked a strange question. "Mary, were you alone on this project?" I started to answer, then hesitated. I realized the meeting might reveal layers I had not imagined. The boss's next words would set the tone. My palms were sweaty. The boss's question felt like a trap. I told him the truth, that I had done most of the report and had drafts and timestamps to prove it. He listened, eyes soft but firm. He asked about teamwork and how we shared ideas. I explained how Marcus had taken my final draft and presented it as his own. He nodded and said he would talk to Marcus. I left feeling relieved but cautious. The next day Marcus acted oddly nice. He complimented my work and suggested we collaborate more. His charm set off alarms in my mind. I decided to watch him closely. I checked the office camera times for the conference room. It showed Marcus entering the room 5 minutes before the meeting, carrying a USB stick. He left 20 minutes later with his phone to his ear. The footage didn't show who prepared the slides earlier that night. Then Nina came to me with a small twist. She had found an earlier version of the slide deck in the shared drive with my name in the comments, but someone had changed the author to Marcus. My stomach turned. Someone on the inside had edited the metadata. Who could do that? The twist made everything murkier. If Marcus had help, this was bigger than petty theft. I realized that exposing him might uncover more secrets. Maybe others had been using the same trick for promotion. The idea made me both scared and determined. I needed tech help to trace the metadata change. I asked IT for a deeper look, explaining the situation without naming blame. They agreed to examine the file properties and server logs. While I waited, I decided to confront Marcus with a calm question. "Did you edit the file, author?" He blinked and said he didn't know how to change metadata. His eyes darted. The doubt pressed like a hand on my chest. Nina sent me a message. IT found something odd. "Call you." I clicked her name and she said, "There are edits from an office computer at 9 p.m. The username is generic, but the machine belongs to someone on Marcus's floor. My mind raced through faces. I thought of Jenna. She often stayed late and liked Marcus. But Jenna wasn't on our team. Who else might help Marcus? I remembered a meeting where Marcus had mentioned a friend in IT who fixes things. The possibility that Marcus had used Inside Help hit like ice. I felt betrayed beyond just one person. If he had paid someone or begged for help, the lie turned into a plan. I decided to widen my net, ask quietly around without looking like an accuser. If I could find one honest coworker to back me, the truth would have weight. But every question raised risks of alerting Marcus. I asked a trusted colleague, Omar, if he'd noticed anything strange with slide authors. He frowned and admitted he'd seen metadata changes before, usually when presentations passed through a specific desk for final edits. He hesitated and said the desk belonged to Lucia from the admin. Lucia was friendly but private. I felt a new twist. Perhaps Marcus had asked Lucia to make last-minute edits, and she unintentionally switched the author. Or she was part of the plan. I decided to talk to Lucia. She looked nervous when I asked. Her hands twisted a pen as she said. Marcus dropped off a USB. I opened it and put the file on the shared drive because I was told to make last-minute formatting changes. Her voice sounded small. I didn't know there was an issue with authorship. Her eyes were honest and wet. She admitted she was tired of Marcus asking favors and felt awkward. He seemed desperate, she said. I wondered if she had been pressured. Lucia also mentioned seeing Marcus with a man in a hoodie the night before the meeting. He handed Marcus a small box. That image made my head spin. Now there were more players. What box? Why a hoodie? The story grew stranger. Lucia's fear made me softer, but my resolve hardened. I needed to know who else had helped Marcus. I dug deeper into the CCTV footage. The footage showed Marcus meeting a man in a hoodie outside the building late at night. The man handed Marcus a small USB case. My pulse was hammered. Who was this man? The footage didn't show his face clearly. I printed the frames and compared them with office entry logs. The only person leaving around that time was someone from the reception staff, but their badge showed they left earlier. It was confusing. Nina suggested we check phone logs. Maybe Marcus had called someone. I hesitated to ask IT for phone records. It felt like crossing a line, but the truth mattered more than my fear. I asked IT if they could check who uploaded the final file to the server. After an hour, they found an upload from Marcus's computer at 8:58 a.m., but the author was altered at 8:45 a.m. That meant someone had changed the metadata before the presentation. The hoodie man's visit now looked like part of a plan to provide a file that morning. I felt a cold twist of suspicion toward Marcus's so-called friend in IT. My next move had to be careful. If I rushed to the boss with guesses, I could look paranoid. If I waited, Marcus could cover tracks. I decided to confront Marcus one more time, armed with a new timeline. My hands shook holding the printed frames of the hoodie man. I found Marcus near the coffee machine and asked if he could spare a minute. He smiled and said, "Sure." I put the printed frames on the counter and watched his face. His smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Who is this?" I asked. He shrugged. "No idea." I pushed. The uploads were timed, so someone edited the author before the presentation. "Did you ask someone to help?" He cleared his throat and said, "I asked no one to steal anything." His voice sounded a bit too strong. I said, "Then why meet that man?" Marcus's fingers tightened on his cup. His eyes flicked to the hallway, then back. He laughed a nervous laugh. "Maybe you're reading too much into things, Mary." The word, too, felt like a dare. At that moment, the boss's assistant walked by. Marcus turned suddenly friendly, saying, "Hey, can you check the projector for me?" The assistant nodded and walked off. Marcus moved closer and whispered, "If you keep pushing, you'll make enemies." The whisper was soft but sharp. I felt my breath freeze. He was trying to scare me. That was the twist. He knew how to play people. My mind spun. If he could intimidate me, what else could he do? I realized I needed a safer plan, one that did not rely on confrontation alone. That night, I met with Nina at a small cafe. We spread the evidence across the table like pieces of a map. Nina's hands were steady as she read. "You have everything you need," she said. "But be smart. People fear loud conflict." She suggested a quiet route. publish an internal report that showed the timeline and evidence, but presented as lessons learned for the team. That way, no one would feel publicly attacked, and the truth would be visible. The idea felt risky but clever. It would make the facts known without dramatic confrontation. Nina also recommended we include a section about acknowledging individual contributions that could force the boss to respond and clear the air. We worked until late, crafting the report in calm, neutral language. We wrote, to improve project crediting and transparency, we proposed these changes, and then added the timeline as an appendix. The next day, I scheduled a team meeting under the pretense of process improvement. Marcus agreed quickly, smiling like he always did. He probably thought the meeting would praise him again. I felt a dainty hope that the clever plan might expose him without a public fight. But part of me worried, what if Marcus anticipated this and had a countermove? I decided to prepare for that possibility by saving copies of everything to the cloud and giving a sealed thumb drive to HR. On the day of the process improvement meeting, the room filled with curious faces. Marcus arrived early, looking confident as ever. I began the presentation calmly, focusing on fairness, transparency, and better documentation. I kept my voice steady, like a river moving forward. When I reached the appendix, I displayed the timeline in the email threads. I didn't name anyone. I let the facts speak. As the screens showed the timestamps and the metadata edits, I watched faces shift. Marcus turned pale. He stood abruptly, stammering, "This is about me, isn't it?" The room grew quiet. I said nothing. The boss asked Marcus to explain. Marcus flailed and said he had been the one to finalize it. Then the boss asked HR to review the evidence. The boss's calm made me feel seen. Marcus tried to twist the story, claiming he had pulled the team together. Then a twist hit. Lucia from admin stood up and confessed to being asked to format the slide at the last minute. She explained Marcus had begged her, looking worried, and handed her a USB. She hadn't known about the authorship change. Her confession added a human tone. She looked ashamed. Marcus's expression moved from confident to cornered. No one had expected Lucia to speak. Her voice trembled, but her words were true. The room hummed with a mix of shock and relief. I felt the wind shift. Marcus stumbled, trying to explain that he thought bringing the file was part of teamwork. His face was flushed. Then an unexpected twist. A quiet voice from the back said, "That's not the whole story." Omar stepped forward holding a printed email thread dated months earlier. The thread showed Marcus asking Omar if he could help with author names. Omar had refused at the time but had never spoken up. He now admitted Marcus had been trying to build credit for months by shifting authorship. The room grew colder. Marcus's eyes darted. He tried to say he had been joking, but the emails were there, clear as glass. His defenses crumbled. The boss looked disappointed, and HR's face hardened with the weight of policy violation. Marcus lashed out, accusing me of orchestrating a smear. But the truth had layers: Lucia, the hoodie man, and the IT connections. Then another twist made my heart stop. IT came in with a report showing an external IP address used to upload the final file that morning. The IP traced to a coffee shop across town, the very place where Marcus was seen leaving with a hoodie man on camera. It was all connected. Marcus staggered under the weight of evidence. The room watched like a jury. I felt a strange mix of victory and pity. He looked smaller than he had in the conference room applause. With the new proof, the boss asked Marcus to step into HR for a private discussion. The office felt unusually still. People whispered in small groups. My hands shook despite the calm I had tried to keep. I didn't want Marcus to be humiliated. I wanted fairness. I told the boss I only wanted policies changed so others would not face this again. He nodded. Meanwhile, Marcus accused me in a leaked chat of ruining careers, and some colleagues believed him. Rumors spread like spilled coffee. I felt my stomach drop. Then Nina brought a twist. She had found a backup of the original file that showed a hidden comment Marcus left months ago, calling one project a stepping stone. The comment made it clear Marcus had a pattern of using other people's work to climb. This was not a one-off. HR expanded the investigation. Marcus's supporters dwindled as more messages came forward. But the fight had a cost. Some people avoided me, worried about being drawn in. I lost a friendship with someone who sided with Marcus without seeing all the facts. The loneliness bothered me more than I expected. Still, the boss called a meeting and promised to revise crediting rules and check badges and uploads more carefully. The office felt different, like a small gash had been cleaned. But Marcus was not done. He sent an email claiming a wrongful accusation and threatened to sue. That twist brought fear back. I realized exposing the truth could become a legal battle. Marcus's threat to sue felt like a storm cloud. My confidence flickered. I met with HR and the boss, who assured me they'd follow procedure and protect me. They suggested mediation to avoid legal fights. I agreed but insisted the facts remain clear. The mediation went tense. Marcus's lawyer-like tone tried to spin stories. He said our team politics had gotten out of hand and that I had personal issues. His accusations landed like stones, making my cheeks burn. I kept my voice calm and answered only with facts. Nina sat beside me and squeezed my hand. When Marcus said I was trying to ruin a career, I felt anger rise but held it. Then the twist came. During the mediator's search, an old email from Marcus to a recruiter was found. He bragged about getting promoted by taking charge, no matter whose idea. That email showed intent. The mediator's face changed. The room took a breath. Marcus finally started to stammer, unable to keep his story straight. The mediator suggested disciplinary action and recommended training and a formal note on Marcus's record. Marcus begged for forgiveness and promised to step down from the lead role. He offered to mentor me as a peace gesture. The offer felt false, like a bandage over a deep cut. I declined. I wanted dignity, not patchwork. The mediator suggested team-wide transparency changes. I felt the fight had pushed the company toward fairness. Yet a small fear remained. Would Marcus actually change? For weeks, the office watched. Policies changed. Every file needed contributors listed in a version log. The boss announced an anonymous feedback system. People whispered that things were better. Marcus kept a low profile but sometimes shot me looks that felt like small fireworks, sharp and dangerous. Then Sarah, no, I must not use that band name. Correction. Jenna, who had been quiet, came to me with news. She had found another instance where Marcus had taken credit on a small client pitch months earlier. This twist expanded the pattern and gave weight to the idea that Marcus had been practicing this behavior for a long time. HR reopened older cases. The boss apologized privately and admitted he had been naive. He thanked me for being brave. I felt relieved but also tired. The office peace felt fragile. Then one evening, I received an anonymous letter left on my desk. It wasn't threatening at first glance. It had a sentence, "We know you like to stir trouble." My skin went cold. The handwriting was messy. The twist of fear tightened around me. Who would write that? Marcus? One of his allies? Or someone who feared change? I reported it. HR promised to investigate. The letter added risk, but also made my resolve firm. If they felt threatened, truth was hitting home. The next day, the boss announced he would hold a town hall to address office culture, and he asked me to speak about transparency. My heart pounded at the thought of facing everyone again. The town hall felt like walking into a storm. People packed the room, some curious, some angry. I stood at the podium, heart racing like a trapped bird. I told the story calmly, focusing on the changes we needed, not revenge. I shared the timeline, the policies, and the new rules. I spoke about teamwork, respect, and crediting. My voice shook but grew stronger. The room listened. Marcus sat in the back, eyes like a cup of dark water. After I finished, he stood up and spoke in a voice that sounded small. He apologized but then tried to twist his apology into minimizing what he had done. People murmured. Suddenly, Lucia, who had admitted the USB incident, stood and gave a short speech about how fear makes people make mistakes but honesty heals teams. That twist of solidarity warmed me. People applauded. Then the anonymous letter writer triggered a new twist. An IT log showed someone had accessed my desk camera and tried to check my screen at night. Further investigation pointed to Marcus's old badge being used after hours. HR found a way he had piggybacked someone to get into the floor. The breach made people angry. Marcus could not deny he had used sneaky tactics. The boss finally said there would be consequences beyond a note. The town hall's mood shifted from curiosity to accountability. I felt both vindicated and heavy with the cost of what had been revealed. The consequences rolled out slowly but firmly. Marcus received a formal reprimand and lost his eligibility for promotion for a year. HR required him to undergo ethics training. The company patched security holes and added more checks. People began to trust the system again. I thought I would feel free, but another twist came. An outside client, who had praised Marcus earlier, reached out to my boss with an email thanking Marcus for his leadership. The boss showed me the message and sighed. His view of the team was complicated. He said, "People see what they want." I felt a fresh sting. Truth does not always erase praise. I realized exposing the lie did not mean the world unsaw Marcus's shine. Some would still remember the applause. But then something unexpected and gentle happened. An intern named Aaron came by my desk and confessed that my work had inspired him. He said he had learned to write clearer emails and give proper credit. His words felt like small sunshine. The twist of warmth made me see that the change rippled beyond punishment. It taught others to be careful and kind. Meanwhile, Marcus's behavior became quieter, and he sometimes offered help without strings. His tone seemed different, but I could not trust it fully. I found myself watching him with a new eye, measuring sincerity. The office slowly rebuilt itself, piece by piece. Weeks passed. The new rules felt normal. People started acknowledging each other's names on slides and in chats. I found myself relaxing a bit. One afternoon, Marcus approached me with a folder. He said he had something to return to the team and handed the folder over. Inside were annotated slides with his corrections and an apology note addressed to the team. He asked if there was anything I wanted to add. I paused. The twist was not dramatic. It was small and oddly human. I added a sentence asking the team to start a regular review to prevent credit confusion. He agreed. Then he surprised me by saying, "Mary, I'm sorry for what I did to you." The apology felt real for a moment. His eyes looked tired, not scheming. I accepted it but kept my guard up. Then Nina told me a secret twist. She had received an anonymous message thanking her for supporting me. Someone had noticed and wanted to say thanks in private. The anonymous kindness warmed me. It showed allies existed, even when not visible. The office laughter returned. But a tiny fear lingered. Would Marcus change when no one watched? I decided to keep an eye, but also to move forward. There was life beyond the office, and I wanted to reclaim more of it. I began to invest time in projects that truly mattered to me. I joined a cross-team initiative and presented ideas that people praised. I felt more confident and less defined by Marcus's theft. Then an unexpected twist occurred. A reporter from a local business magazine reached out asking to write about team culture reforms and wanted interviews. The boss recommended me as someone who could speak on the changes without blaming. I agreed, nervous but curious. The interview was calm and thoughtful. I focused on the importance of transparency and procedures, not on revenge. The magazine published a short piece highlighting the company's new rules and named me as a champion of fairness. The article went viral in the local business network. Suddenly, my story was public, but told in a professional way. Some colleagues congratulated me. Some were quiet. Marcus sent a neutral message. "Good work on the article." I didn't reply. The twist of public recognition felt strange. I had never wanted fame. I wanted justice. Now both had come in a shape I had not expected. People outside the office admired the changes, and other companies reached out to learn. I felt proud. The virus of fairness had spread. I slept better that week, and my dreams were lighter. But life is never only smooth. One morning I found a message in the company forum accusing me of seeking attention and making the company look bad. The post was anonymous, but bitter. I felt the old sting. People can be cruel to the one who speaks up. I swallowed the hurt and replied with calm facts, refusing to sink to the level of the attack. Nina stood by me again, and the boss defended the public narrative, saying the new policies were necessary. Then an unexpected twist gave me comfort. A longtime client sent a thank you note directly to me, praising my clarity and dedication. They said they felt safer working with a team that valued honesty. The client's note reminded me why I had fought. It wasn't about punishment. It was about trust. I printed the letter and taped it inside my notebook. The anonymous poster eventually stopped posting. The company tightened rules around anonymous attacks and set up clear channels for concerns. The air felt cleaner. I started mentoring junior staff, teaching them how to document their work. The twist of passing on lessons brought quiet joy. I had turned a personal wound into a compass to help others navigate. That feeling was softer than revenge and stronger than anger. As time passed, Marcus applied for a transfer to another department. He approached me and asked if I would give him a reference. I felt the past open like a wound. The twist was unexpected. Forgiveness or vengeance. I could block him, drag his name through continued conflicts, or offer a fair reference that noted both strengths and flaws. I thought about the office culture I wanted to build. In the end, I wrote a measured reference that described his skills and the areas he needed to improve. I refused to lie or to be cruel. When Marcus left for his new role, he shook my hand. His grip felt real but brief. He looked at me and said, "Thanks." I nodded. The twist of moving on felt like letting go of a heavy book. The office continued to evolve. New hires learned the rules, and credit became an obvious step in every project. I felt my energy return. At night I found myself less haunted by that conference room applause. The wound healed slowly, leaving a scar that reminded me to guard fairness.